Good evening, everyone. It is 6:00 p.m., so we will open up our public comment session for non-agenda items only. Is there any public comment? If so, please come up to the mic because we don't have any forms in the back. Non-agenda items only. All right. Okay. Hearing no public comment on non-agenda items only at this time, at 6:01 p.m., I would like to call our legislative meeting to order for April 19th, 2022. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis.
Here.
Buckingham.
Here.
Rivera.
Here.
Washington.
Here.
Walker.
Here. And if you are able to, please stand for a pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silence.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We will now take action on previous meeting minutes from April 5th, 2022. Council, are there any changes that need to be made to those meeting minutes?
I have none.
Hearing none, all of those in favor of approving, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. Up next, we have a presentation from Mr. Cohen for the Claiborne Loft Project.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening. Can hear you.
I think each of you has a package. Up until yesterday, I had one presentation for you all, but as of yesterday, I have a different presentation. And I'll get into it, but the Claiborne Lofts proposal is for the adaptive reuse of one of the buildings on the Dentsply campus, which you know is for sale. Well, yesterday the broker sent out an email that says that they need calls. It's a call to offers for the Dentsply campus, the entire 17 acres, by May the 6th. So you'll see that my presentation is more about encouraging the city to do something about that 17-acre property being on the open market and potentially being purchased and or used in such a way that doesn't benefit the city or the Salem Square neighborhood. This is a pretty serious, kind of thing. So I'll just get into my presentation, and I'd love to have some conversation and questions afterwards.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
What did you say happened for May 6th? Something changed yesterday. I didn't hear exactly.
The broker announced that there's a call to offers.
Okay.
So if people are interested in making a bid for the Dentsply campus, those offers have to be in the broker in Cushman Wakefield's office by 5:30, May the 6th, 2022.
Thank you.
Which is very surprising because the property's really only been on the market for about 60 days. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway, my name is Andrew Cohen. I am a Senior Vice President for Development with the Woda Cooper Companies. Woda Cooper's headquarters is in Columbus, Ohio. My office is in Towson, Maryland. I've been with Woda Cooper for over 10 years doing development work, and my responsibility is to do affordable housing developments in Pennsylvania and Maryland. Woda Cooper's been in business for over 30 years. We do development, property management, and general contracting. We manage all of our properties. We control the entire process. We're pretty conservative. In your packet, you'll see a profile of the company. Second page of your packet actually is a list of all the properties that we have developed in the state of Pennsylvania. Quite a few of them are in the York area in south central Pennsylvania. There are 23 properties that we have garnered awards from the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency to develop affordable housing. It's for seniors, general occupancy, adaptive reuse, new construction. And we're pretty successful every year getting at least one award from PHFA. So as you're aware, well, let's see. I'm here to introduce you to what I think is a very exciting opportunity for the City of York, and specifically for the Salem Square neighborhood and the Codorus Creek waterfront. About a year ago, I met with James Crosby and Nona Watson and Blanda Nace, who's here tonight, when the Dentsply 17-acre campus was first on the market. That was about a year ago. And then Dentsply took it off the market because they had not actually vacated all the properties, and they wanted to do things in a very linear kind of fashion. So the property is back on the market. As I said, it's only been on the market again for about 60 days, and they've done calls for offers, which being in the real estate business, I think that probably means that there's a lot of interest for the property. But again, the city has no idea who's really interested. Blanda occasionally, I think, gets some calls. He may have a sense of who's interested in the property. Woda Cooper is specifically interested in the 550 and 570 West College Avenue buildings. Those are pictured in the back of your packet. They are the Dentsply R&D and office buildings that were built in the 60s, and our plan would be to convert those buildings to about 50 or 60 units of independent senior affordable housing for seniors 62 and over, using the low-income housing tax credit program, as well as an ask of city home funds, and maybe if there's some ARPA funds available for affordable housing, we'd appreciate that as well. The other major building on the campus is the manufacturing plant, Yon Properties, who I think you all are familiar with, that recently did the caramel factory at 231 West College Avenue for Riverside Lofts. They're interested in the manufacturing building to do about 50 or 60, maybe a little bit more, of market rate general occupancy housing. These buildings are in really good condition right now. They really are ripe for adaptive reuse. There are other portions of the Dentsply campus that I think the city should want to control the outcome of. There's some other out parcels. There are quite a few townhouse lots, that were purchased by Dentsply many years ago. They would be ripe for sale housing. There is, and then once the residential is really set there, right, then it would be a good time to use some of the other parcels potentially for retail use. And then there's some other buildings there right now that, again, are in good condition that might be good for public-private kinds of uses. And Blanda may have some ideas about that. I've been working with Blanda for a while, and Yon Properties and I have been talking to him for a while. But Yon Properties and Woda don't have the wherewithal and the time to purchase the entire campus. So you may be wondering, well, why won't Woda and Yon take it? It's not our business to be master developers for large conversion opportunities. The impediments to moving this project forward are site control, rezoning. We'd be glad to work with the council and the planning commission to get portions or all of the site rezoned. Currently, you can't do housing on the property. Again, Dentsply wants to want to disinvest from the city. They want to sell the whole thing at once to the highest bidder, who's going to close as quickly as possible. They're not interested in selling it in pieces, the office buildings to Woda and the manufacturing building to Yon, and then other pieces to others. They don't want to hang out and be a master developer. So again, I think there's some urgency here that the city should consider. The other thing too is that proper development for residential of the Dentsply campus will, should involve the Cadorus waterfront, which, this is a really great opportunity to get a big chunk of that waterfront, converted to parkland, converted for walking and biking and having gazebos and hanging out, that kind of thing, and connecting it with the Salem Square neighborhood in a better way. So, I think it really would be kind of a tragedy, not to be too dramatic, but if the city, didn't step up and really try to take control of what happens there. In the past, in York and many other cities, these opportunities have come up, and cities have not been able to, for one reason or another, to take control of something like this, and then somebody from out of town buys the property at a price that is attractive to the seller. It's a shame that Dentsply hasn't, respected their roots in the city, but I think they're going to take the highest bidder, that person can just sit on the buildings, right, until they deteriorate. Right now, they're in really good shape. They really do lend themselves well to adaptive reuse. So for residential. So that's kind of my changed presentation. Again, originally I was here to do an ask for home funds for a 50-unit adaptive reuse of 2 of the buildings on the Dentsply campus, but without a clear track to site control, I'd be wasting your time. So that's why I decided it would be hopefully more useful to you all to hear from somebody in the market, from a developer, what I think the situation is. So I don't know, Blanda, if you wanted to come up and make some remarks or not. I don't think he does want to.
Sure, because I do have some questions, and I'd like to answer them or you, Mr. Cole. So Dentsply owns the entire property, right?
They do, yes.
And if they don't want to sell it in pieces, what are we to do? What's council to do, or the administration?
Yeah, and that's the kind of the twist in this whole thing is I've spoken to, I think, almost every developer who stored the site. The broker's been really good about connecting them to me. Everything east of Grantley Road on this site is in an opportunity zone, which is my job. Let's attract development to opportunity zones. And it's been really interesting because Dentsply has not given a price. When you put your house on the market, you say, here's what I'm selling it for. They haven't. They've hinted around at ideas of what they think they should get for it, but they haven't been firm on we need $4 million or we need $8 million or whatever. We have a good idea of what we think it should go for, and it's listed with Cushman Wakefield out of Baltimore.
Information's in your packet.
Yeah, yeah.
And have you reached out to them to see? And fair enough, I think now Dentsply wants to sell the entire thing. Is that?
Yeah. Dentsply will not. They won't break it up. And this is really, it's. I don't forget the number of parcels. Andy, you may know, or maybe in your packet.
30
It's 30 parcels, and there's a lot of cross-connected buildings. So the fire suppression tank might be on this parcel, but it feeds this parcel. So for them as a corporation, and it's a similar situation I had at Harley. You take it, you figure it out. So the challenge is such a large, complex site. I've got Woda Cooper on hook for senior housing. I've got Jan interested in market rate housing. I had an engineer who might want the one building, but he couldn't afford to buy the whole thing. So my job is constantly trying to marry people together. I introduced Andy to another, actually the world's largest real estate developer who's actually interested in it, but they want to demolish and start over. So, it's finding the right connections and making the right people connected.
One person that can do it is you, Glenn.
No, if that was true, it would be done. I did actually, on behalf of the RDA did submit a letter of intent last year when this was active, and our purchase price was for them to donate it to us. And we would take it with, part of the challenge is not only price, but as Andy referenced, it's due diligence. How much time is a buyer going to need to make sure they can get the zoning, make sure they can build what they want to build, get all the incentives they could find, apply for their loans? All of that takes time before they would actually give Dentsply any money. The RDA could take it tomorrow and say, we'll figure that out. The RDA doesn't have the cash. So my offer to Dentsply was, we'll take it, but we'll take it. We're not going to pay you for it. We think the market rate's $3 to $5 million. I've cobbled together so far probably a little over $2. Well, and we did talk about that at one point in time, and we started to create this big list of what could we potentially do. This was actually one of those ideas that popped up on the list, because really the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. So if someone were to buy this, and I had a developer, and I told Andy this, full transparency, I had a developer from Rhode Island call me yesterday, and he says he's thinking about it. The May 6th is tight for him as well. But he has no idea what he wants to do with it. None. He just wants to buy it and break it off and sell it to whomever he thinks would pay him the most amount of money.
Do you know how much money the city, do they still pay taxes? I'm assuming Dentsply does, right? They own the building. Yes. And
They do. I think the total tax bill out there is 150-ish. So you're good at that. What's the city's portion if the total is 150? 50. Yeah. So about 50,000 a year.
So it's not deeded, it's not deeded on parcel?
No, it's 30 some parcels. Yeah.
Deeded individually?
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens, I'm sorry. I have such a loud voice, I forget that. What happens if there are no offers by May 6th?
There will be, yeah.
Oh, somebody won't. Okay.
Let me add, though, that
You can come up to
Yes, the mic.
the, you can come up to the mic.
I can tell you that Woda Cooper would sign a contract today for those two buildings, for the R&D building and the office building, okay, contingent upon getting rezoning and clear environmental and our financing. We would sign a contract today for $750,000. I'm fairly certain, I don't want to put them out too far, but I'm fairly certain, after discussions with David and with Trish Young, okay, that they would do the same thing, okay? So if the city's interested, you probably have about $1.5 million, okay, already in the deal, all right? But we have to get through rezoning, we have to get through environmental, we have to get through financing, we have to get through building permits and so forth.
Just as that was kind of a good segue. We, in all of our discussions with this property, with all of the developers, there has been a housing component to everybody's idea. As the mayor and I had a conversation the other day, we are in a housing crisis nationwide. And even though we all want walkable jobs and we all want people to have employment and the ability to go to work right there, this, in reality, it's a 3-story old factory that was built in 1909. Someone can go manufacture in a cornfield really easier. But I do think, and in fact, one of your pages in your drawing has multiple colors on it. It's kind of my shot at how this site can be broken up for housing versus employment. We could do job training. We could do innovation district type things in some of these buildings who are just ripe for that. We just don't have someone knocking on our door right now that's got an extra $5 million to buy the whole thing so that they could have this one building wedged between York College and Salem Square, which is a great location for incubators and startups and training and all of that good thing. But related to the housing components on this employment center zone, I did have CS Davidson review that and what the process would or could be for the city to allow housing to happen there. And we are looking at it right now, but between Planning Commission and Council, we may approach you for a request to do an overlay of zoning that would allow someone to come in and do a master plan that would incorporate housing, mixed use, like all the right things that need to be in a right place in a large redeveloped area. Something like this is such a unique thing that the zoning is really a challenge there.
May I share something, Council?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that Bland has been doing a great job trying to orchestrate the city's interests represent us. And this recent turn of events has definitely taken us from being well prepared for how to move forward to being relatively ill prepared for moving forward. From my calculations, now we have 17 days to determine what they're really getting at, I believe, is we've 17 days to determine if we want to use approximately $5 million of ARPA money to control this site, because there is no other money that is available, or we won't have close on the wastewater treatment plant. So essentially, and because all of that has to occur within, it has to take multiple votes, we essentially have this week, 3 days, to figure out what our move is. And I think we've gone as far as we want to go publicly discussing the investments of the different potential investor. I will say this, the number that I've heard, and no offense to you, sir, but the number that I've heard does not sound like a substantial chunk of what a total reasonable bid would be. So that's really leaving a lot of it on the back of the city. It would behoove the city to control this, but we're really looking at a tight situation. Densplay has just put us we're going to have to work miracles within the next 3 days if we want to do something like this. So if the city council so chooses, this isn't something to vote on or anything, but if you want to have these discussions over the next 72 hours, that's when we need to make such a thing happen. And it would take the council approving a minimum of about $3 million, would you say, Blanda, to make a reasonable, again, we shouldn't be showing our cards publicly.
Yeah, right. But keep in mind that
the fact is we have to approve it publicly so people are going to know what we're
right.
what we're doing.
Well, and there's time and contingencies, so and value. So we wouldn't have as many things, so that in the seller's mind would have value. So we could potentially reduce our price without having, we don't need to wait for rezoning. We don't need to, we'll handle that. Any other purchaser coming in is going to have the contingencies built in. So there's some value to that we could work on, but I haven't
So
done a complete
I did
analysis.
want to hear the mayor's opinion on this, so.
I would just,
For me, the opinion is always there's always a point where it's a value, and then there's a point where you just can't do it. And I don't think we have calculated that. This is the first time I've heard any specific investments from, Bland and I have been discussing this. This is the first time I've heard any rock solid bids or what do I want to say, contributions from the outside developers. So it's really hard to know when we don't know. We're going to have to sit down and determine where our sweet spot is. And then we're just going to have to say, if it goes past that, we can't participate. And so I'm counting on Blanda within the next 24 hours now, Blanda. So our timetable has just changed rapidly.
I wanted to apologize to Councilwoman.
that's okay. I just wanted to add that if it were to come into the RDA's hands that we would acquire this property, that it's imperative that we do look at the affordable housing. In our community, we know there's a lack of affordable housing, and even be creative and innovative in looking at programming that would assist those who are homeless, near homelessness. Yes, people want market rate housing. Yes, it can earn them money, but as we know, and here in the city of York, there is a lack of affordable housing. There's a lack of housing. There are people who cannot even afford housing. So if we can we were able to do that, if we could even look at and be creative and innovative in using the property. I know that some things are out of our control, sure. But if we can be imperative in looking at
being creative with programming to meet the needs of our community, because the market rate housing is going up and things are tripling for rent. And we have residents who can't even afford to have a place to live and raise their families, which is very sad. And so I would just want us to look at that and be keen on when developers come in, what are they looking at placing in the property? How is it going to build up our community? Not just looking at yes, we want to make money, but also we don't want to make money on the backs of people and they don't have a safe place to raise their families.
We do
Thank
have
you.
we do have a developer who is interested in the site, who has a really great affordable, and really Alice focused. If you're interested, if you're familiar with asset limited, income constrained, employed, the Alice community is huge and growing nationwide. And this one developer wants to come in, and they really want to build this affordable, privately subsidized affordable housing, which is phenomenal. And I've connected them with Woda Cooper, and that's a marriage that they have a sketch plan with his building shown on their stuff. But, there's so many moving parts right now with all of the offers.
Councilwoman, I'd like to say that if council were to participate, this would give us the strongest position, not only to make an effort, but to demand such a thing. If we own the property, we determine what the property is used for.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have much less leverage to make anything like that happen.
Thank you.
Just wanted to say something as well. On that, if we own the property, we can demand what happens. And if it's possible that this could happen, that we stay focused on the goal of that affordable housing that can benefit our residents and our homelessness in our community. Because I know sometimes we can look at different things and then the goal shifts and change. So, if we can, that would be amazing. But also to make sure that we stick to what it is that we originally step out to do. Thank you.
I would just like to add the last thing. While we can't bring you any details, what I would ask the council to do over the next 12 to 24 hours is just think in your head philosophically, if you want to use $2.5 to $3 million of ARPA money to control the Densply property.
Yeah, and I will tell you, what Andy said tonight and this whole discussion was 180 degrees different than the script that he sent me 3 days ago. So I promise you, this was not staged or prepared whatsoever. This
Well, you
really
just
did-
read
this
my
caught us all-
mind. Well, I
this
wasn't
caught
going
us
to
all by
say
surprise.
that it was staged, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how long the conversations were going on in regards to possibly requesting ARPA funds
Yeah,
from
literally
council.
20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a thought that I always had in the back of my mind, I'll be honest. But, this is a process. This is not just, hey, by the way, I need $3 million.
When, for transparency, while no money or no source of money was discussed, Bland and I discussed control of the property
Sure,
on
absolutely.
Wednesday, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That he's first approached me with kind of putting the jigsaw puzzle pieces together and then having the city provide any additional funding. But we were talking RACP, we
Right,
were talking
absolutely.
other sources of funding, but it's Densply's move that really kind of put us in a corner. And it's not to say necessarily that some funding might not be available that could then reimburse what the original, for instance, if we buy the whole thing and then we're selling it out to investors, when we get that money back, we could then use it again for whatever the city's purpose is.
Oh, absolutely.
But right now, it would be a deep need for immediate cash.
How does $2.5 million or $3 million get the city control of that property?
I'm honestly just throwing a number out there because none of us know what this number is. Blanda might come back with 4 million, 5 million. I don't know. I'm just trying to give you.
You know what the property is assessed at?
Doesn't matter.
And with us just talking about ARPA funding, or just throwing it out there, let me say that, I know Melanie deals with that. Has that conversation even went through her yet? Or the discussion, the possibility of that funding being utilized for this property? Do you not?
Yeah.
Do I need to repeat it?
Yeah. Melanie and I've talked about this before in the past as well. Yeah, the acquisition of things, would that be eligible? Yeah,
Okay.
that's- yeah.
Because because I know she deals with it, and I know that's a major step, before we can start talking about ARPA. She deals with it, and
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
just a question.
And the recapture, if for example, if you, again, totally making up numbers, if you spent 3 and sold it for 5, that money gets recycled back in.
Right.
For other things we could do, like the mayor said too.
What are the real estate tax implications on development, on the property being developed for housing?
I mean, most developers or anyone who's going to put housing or any development there is going to either apply for LRTA or RETAP. So they're going to get the tax abatement program. So we, in theory, we wouldn't. Now, if the city or the RDA owned it, we would lose that tax revenue during their ownership. But once it went into private hands, the real estate tax implications were, in 10 years, will ramp up to full value. But because the city is already pre-approved for LRTA and RETAP, that's going to happen regardless of the site.
Well, and just to add, the development of residential would probably increase the value of the property, more so than the current 100-year-old commercial space. What we've really lost here is the mercantile, the value of the manufacturing that has occurred there for 100 and some years. That's where we really got kicked with the taxes, and why it would be nice to have some kind of commercial component to it, but we've got competing needs. We do have housing needs, so at some point we just something's got to happen, and we've got to work with, our best laid plans still have to work within the market.
Sure, yeah, it's about balance. You really need to balance the whole site. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from council? Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Is there anything else that you needed to add?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Our next committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 27th, 2022 at 6:00 p.m. in council chambers. Agenda items are due by 12 noon on April 20th, which is tomorrow. Our next legislative meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. Agenda items are due by 12 noon on Thursday, April 28th. There are no reports for prior committee referrals, so we will move on to our legislative agenda. Nothing for subdivision, land development, or HARB, so we will move on to final passage of bills. And up first, we have final passage of Bill number 23.
Bill number 23, which was introduced by Queen of Washington at the April 5th meeting of council, an ordinance amending the 2022 budget for the Health Department by appropriating revenue and expenditures for the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program in the amount of $35,245.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from council?
None.
Any questions or comments from the public? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes, that is so ordered. Up next, we have final passage of Bill number 24.
Bill number 24, which was introduced by Queen of Washington at the April 5th meeting of council, an ordinance amending the 2022 budget for the Bureau of Health by appropriating revenue and expenditures for Fund 26 Special Projects Account for environmental lead investigations in the amount of $1,620.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from council?
No.
None.
Any questions or comments from the public? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes, that is so ordered. Up next, we have final passage of Bill number 25.
Bill number 25, which was introduced by Queen of Washington at the April 5th meeting of council, an ordinance making an appropriation for money not otherwise appropriated in the 2022 budget in the amount of $77,000 and ARPA funding for demolition of the property located at 38 East South Street by A Plus Inc.
Move to approve.
It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from council?
None.
Any questions or comments from the public? Did you?
My name is Selena Shriver.
I'm sorry, say your name again.
Selena Shriver. I reside at 42 East South Street, right beside 38. I noticed in the contract from A Plus Inc. that they said they would not be held responsible for any damages done to adjacent properties. They have damaged my home to the extent that I don't know if I can get in my side door. I don't know who is going to pay for repairs. They ripped the awning off that was above my side door. I do have photos if the council would like to see. But I'm just curious as to who is going to take care of said property damage. When I asked the gentleman, Mr. Scott, he said once they were done tearing down 38, he said they will repair it. And I kept asking who they were, and he didn't give me an answer. I'm just hoping it's not the same they that Biden's dealing with.
When you say Mr. Scott,
Mr. Scott Sellers.
Scott Sellers,
From A
okay.
Plus Inc.
From A Plus, okay. We have a Mr. Scott that works for the city as well, so.
So what was that last comment you made? Same,
Every time
that-
I would ask him who would, he said they will. And I said, I just hope it's not the same they that Biden deals with when, he's doing a press conference. He says, they tell me I can't answer a question, and he walks away. I'm hoping I'm not being shifted like, hey, there's damage done to your property. I'm not held responsible, but my equipment did it. Sorry.
like President Biden?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Do you own that property?
Huh?
Do you own the property you live in?
My roommate does.
Are you finished with your comments? Well,
Would
go
the-
ahead, if you can come.
Would the council like to see the photos?
Would the council like to see photos of her property?
No, I believe you.
Okay, we'll take your word for it. Okay. Is there any other comment? Did you want to finish it out?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yes, I did. Okay.
Any other question or comment from the public?
In relation to that?
Yes. Mhm. Madam Clerk, can you?
Was there a second on that? I know-
Yes,
Mhm.
I seconded it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, hearing no other public comment, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes. And that is so ordered. Moving on to final passage of Bill number 26.
That's Bill number 26, which was introduced by Betsy Buckingham at the April 5th meeting of council, amending the fiscal year 2022 budget for business administration, information technology, human resources, and economic and community development.
Move to approve.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from council?
No.
Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes, that is so ordered. Moving on to final passage of Bill number 27.
Bill number 27, which was introduced by Lou Rivera at the April 5th meeting of council. And that is a bill amending article, deleting reference to the City of York General Authority in Articles 123, 509, and 517 of the city codified ordinances.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from council?
No.
Any questions or comments from the public? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes, that is so ordered. Moving on to new business. We have the introduction of a bill amending the financial year 2022 city budget.
So introduced.
Bill number 28, introduced by Aquina Washington. An ordinance whereas the Bureau of Health is requesting an amendment to the city budget for 2022 by appropriating revenue and expenditures for the County of York Department of Human Services Children and Youth Family Agency grant in the amount of $348,494.53.
That is an introduction, so it will sit until our next legislative meeting. Moving on to introduction of Bill number 29.
So introduced.
Bill number 29, introduced by Aquina Washington. A bill, amending the fiscal year 2022 budget for the police department to fund overtime equipment for the violence intervention team and electric patrol vehicle software in the amount of $500,000. The fire department to fund apparatus purchase in the amount of $330,000. The health bureau to fund expenses for program services in the amount of $30,000, and economic and community development for the ecosystem initiative in the amount of $140,000.
That is an introduction, so it will sit until our next legislative meeting. Moving on to items for consideration of a consent agenda. Can I have a motion to proceed with a consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to consent agenda for items 8 through 11. Council, please review those items, and if there are any agenda items that you would like to pull, please share them with us.
I'd like to pull number 9.
I would like to pull number 11.
Okay. Are there any other items?
Rivera was number 9.
9. Yes.
And Dennis was agenda item number
11.
11.
Okay. 11. Is this for later discussion or committee, or what are we doing with those?
I want to refer to committee for further discussion for me.
Okay.
For number 11?
Is that a motion?
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Okay, so there is a motion to refer agenda item 11 to committee.
Just so council's clear on if they move that item to a committee, essentially what they're doing is
There's
not
a-
waiving the conflict.
We have a motion and a second.
And I do have a public comment in regard to that.
If it's referred to committee, there's no discussion at the moment.
That's unfortunate because I came here specifically for that, so I'd like to at least make my
Okay, motion.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Okay, this is the motion to move agenda item 11 to committee.
Yes.
Okay.
I do think that it should be clear what council's doing
We
with this
understand
item.
there's a motion to refer it to committee. There has been a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes. That item will be moved to the committee for further discussion. Item 9, ma'am,
If I may.
no, you cannot. This is my meeting. I'm running it. If you have comment, you can come to our legislative meeting where you can comment on that. It will be, our next legislative meeting will be the first Tuesday in May.
And the committee meeting that this was referred to is next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, same place.
Is that going to be before the hearing?
A hearing?
There's no discussion on this. It has been moved to committee.
Yeah.
So we're moving on to item 9. We're moving on to item 9. We're moving on to item 9. We're moving on to item 9.
Okay, so when the voter reads.
We're moving on to item 9. You'll respect the rules of the order. Item 9.
Okay. What's going on with 9? Is that,
So no, I just wanted to discuss it.
okay, all right, so,
So it needs to be introduced.
all right, so the consent agenda would be in agenda items 8 and 10 then.
He called number, he called 9.
9, right, you didn't want to vote on the 2 consent and then discuss number 9?
Well, we
after?
already did 11, so we might as well do 9 too.
Oh, okay. What do you mean? What do you mean? Give us just a second here for a sidebar.
A motion to approve items 8 and 10. Is there a motion to approve items 8 and 10? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments from council?
No.
Any questions or comments from the public? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes, and that is so ordered. Item 9.
So introduce, a motion to approve.
Let's introduce. So introduced.
So that will be resolution number 50. And that was introduced, isn't that Equina that's introducing that one? Agenda item number 9. Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and do that. And that's a resolution whereas the Bureau of Health provides public health services to the city of York, and whereas the Bureau of Health continues to enhance community-wide prevention and education efforts to address overdoses in York County by fostering collaboration to identify, implement, evaluate overdose, opioid misuse, and substance abuse prevention strategies, and whereas Latino Connection provides marketing and communications to support the development and implementation of an awareness campaign for preventing and mitigating youth substance use. And whereas the Bureau of Health shall subcontract with Latino Connection for awareness campaign and outreach services, which may include development of campaign materials and messaging, technical assistance for implementation and evaluation of the effectiveness, and much more for services under this project, up to a maximum of $125,000. And whereas the Bureau of Health has budgeted for this expense in the 2022 budget as part of their prescription drug monitoring program, now therefore be resolved and mayor is authorized and the controller is authorized and directed to enter an agreement with Latino Connection for same.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from council?
Yes, I just wanted to, I don't know who initiated this, but I just wanted to thank George Fernandez at Latino Connection for all the great work he's done in York. He's a Harrisburg guy, but he's just a power player when it comes to health and in the Latino community and in all communities. He's done a lot with the SAMRC and a lot in the city, and I just wanted to thank him from the bottom of my heart for all the great work he's done. So I think this is a great partnership with the city's health department. I just wanted to put in some words on that.
I want to thank you, Councilman. Yes, the Health Bureau and Ricky Quintero, my executive administrator, have been doing a lot.
We're
to
still on council
comment.
question and comment, yes.
I was responding.
Are there any other
Article
questions and
123
comments
allows me
from
to respond.
council? Any questions or comments from the public? Mayor?
Yeah, just for clarity's sake, Article 123 allows me to respond as a council member. So if you want to reference
Well,
that.
we weren't asking for responses. This is question. He didn't ask a question. He just
Right.
made a comment.
It allows me to
You
comment.
can
It allows me to
comment.
comment.
I'm the chair. You can comment.
Okay, I will provide you with a copy.
Oh, I don't need a copy.
Thank you very much, Councilman Rivera. Ricky Quintero and the Health Bureau have been continuing to maintain contact, and they're doing a lot of good work together. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council or for the public? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Okay. That one there. Dennis,
Yes.
Buckingham,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Washington, Walker,
Yes, and that is so ordered. There's no request for future meetings. Any council comment?
No.
Administration comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. A few things going on this coming week. Again, we have a fair housing clinic coming up on Monday, April 25th, here in City Council chambers from 10 to 6 o'clock. That's being sponsored by the Human Relations Commission, and you can register at 717-846-2926, and you can learn about all that we're doing and all that you can do to help protect everyone's rights when it comes to housing, and also possibly if you have any complaints or concerns, you can bring those at that time to the Human Relations Commission. Also, we have Go Green in the City this weekend, Saturday from 10 to 3, so events all around York City this weekend for Go Green in the City. And the Bloom Business Series Commercial Real Estate, I would really encourage York City residents, if they are able to look into investing in the city of York. Of course, you have to invest wisely, but as we were discussing tonight, we didn't quite get to this point, but when people within the city or when city entities don't own the real estate here in the city, we don't really control the outcome. So if you are able and if you understand what it means to invest in the real estate, but also be prepared for taxes and things like that, then I would encourage you to support the city by investing in the city, but also go to the Bloom Business Series Commercial Real Estate, Wednesday, April 20th, 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and you can contact the York County Economic Alliance for that. I feel like I do have to make a comment on the item that was referred to committee.
There's no discussion on that if it was
Not
referred to
discussion,
committee.
It's administration comment.
There's no comment on it.
Oh, isn't there?
No, not if it's referred to committee. We'll discuss
goes
it
to
then.
How can you refer something to committee when it is relevant on Thursday? This Thursday.
We
in
referred
2
it to
days.
committee. If you continue to talk about it, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Okay, go ahead and adjourn. I'll keep talking about it.
Meeting's adjourned.
So what happened here is that the council referred something to committee that is pressing, that it needs to be decided for a hearing that is occurring on Thursday. Now, we have to spend money, taxpayer money, on an attorney because our own attorney cannot represent a position that is his position. So now the city taxpayers, because of council's actions, have just lost money. We are now going to have to go and hire outside counsel because they have not provided the waiver to allow Solicitor Sable to represent his own position in a hearing on Thursday. Very, very disappointed in this cost to the taxpayers.
Since this is, it's adjourned, I'm a little concerned because I'm hearing about a lot of things that require money from taxpayers. I'm a resident, I'm a taxpayer, and I voted for these individuals. So now these individuals don't want to hear from me, which I'm listening to and I'm hearing. So that's concerning to me because now our taxpayer dollars are going towards an outside solicitor when, as the mayor said, we have someone who is competent. So I'm just that. No, I don't.
So before you accept that and make that position as a, because you stated it as a
No.
fact.
What I'm saying is I am,
Mayor,
my, what I would like is for the waiver to allow him to use, that's what, I'm not saying what is fact. What I'm